Delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to Delightfully Devilish, the show where we discuss films that all at once meet the criteria of being the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jukebox Harry, and today...
Roadhouse.
The first time I actually ever heard about Roadhouse was, yes, from that episode of Family Guy as a kid. Then one time I was in JB Hi-Fi and I noticed it on sale for $7 and I begged my mum to get it for me because it's R-rated and I couldn't buy it at that age. Since then, I've watched it several times, and fuck, I love this movie. Roadhouse is a 1989 action film directed by Rowdy Herrington, a former gaffer and electrician, and it stars a post-Dirty Dancing Patrick Swayze. He actually sustained injuries on the set of this movie, which prevented him from taking on roles in both Tango and Cash and Predator 2. Due to the injuries, he actually took on a less physically demanding role in the movie that would be Ghost. So we actually have Roadhouse to thank for that movie. Despite making a modest sum at box office, Roadhouse failed when it was originally released, and a large aspect of this is attributed to the fact that the studio decided to market it as a light-hearted, campy film to try to appeal to Swayze's fan base that it established from Dirty Dancing. It didn't actually find success until it was released on home video, where people saw it as a campy classic of hyper-masculine cinema. Also, it scored 5 Golden Raspberry Award nominations, none of which it deserved. I have always been a big fan of Patrick Swayze. I loved Red Dawn, Dirty Dancing, Ghost, and I enjoyed the TV series The Beast, but I've always considered this to be the greatest film he's ever done. I also consider this to be the second best work of his career after this. I consider Roadhouse to be one of the ultimate guilty pleasures in cinema, so let's indulge. Roadhouse starts with a man wandering around a high-end bar where Patrick Swayze's character Dalton works.
I've always wanted to try you. I think I can take you.
Outside.
Come on, hotshot. Come on. Come on, let's do it. Go, Dirtball, where you going? Hey! Hey, Moose, get back here! Dickhead!
Dalton is a cooler, a specialized bouncer with a mysterious past and a legacy for being the best. The man in question, Frank Tillman, comes and offers him the opportunity to work at a bar outside Kansas City called the Double Deuce.
I need somebody to help me clean the place up. I need the best.
Dalton arrives at the Double Deuce to see blind guitarist Jeff Healey performing. Healey actually gave the film a pretty dope soundtrack, and I'm really proud to have a copy. The Double Deuce is in shambles. It's a rampant cesspool of violence, misogyny, and drug dealing. The current head of security has a tendency towards violence and a short tempo.
You're not drinking, you're out of here.
You got a name?
Yeah?
Well, what is it?
I'm Rick James, bitch. Ever seen a better pair of attitudes? For $20, you can kiss them.
That's not a good deal at all.
Hey, buddy, what are you doing? Are you gonna kiss him or not? I can't. What do you mean you can't? I ain't got $20.
Ah, Jesus. A brawl breaks out and the bouncers all prove more destructive than helpful. Yeah, that was my mood watching this. You really have to admire the comic energy in this scene. It's all excessively violent and over the top, but there's such a sense of self-aware, campy comic energy which really makes it enjoyable. Dalton moves to town, taking up residence in a barn loft across the lake from local business magnate Brad Wesley, played by Ben Gazzara from Inchon.
This is a new Double Deuce. I put a lot of money and time into this. And to protect my investment, I've hired the best damn cooler in the business. From now on, he's in charge of all the bar business. What he says, goes.
Morgan, you're out of here.
What the fuck you talking about?
You don't have the right temperament for the trade.
You asshole!
You're out too. We're selling booze here, not drugs. It's my way or the highway. All you have to do is follow 3 simple rules. 1, never underestimate your opponent. Expect the unexpected. 2, take it outside. Never start anything inside the bar unless it's absolutely necessary. And 3, be nice.
This guy's smart. I mean, like, fuck a guy smart. Know what I'm saying?
I wonder if somebody calls my mama a whore.
Is she?
Dalton's first night doesn't go to plan. One of the bartenders steals from the till, one of the bouncers is caught banging a customer,
Your history.
and another customer even pulls a switchblade.
Roadhouse.
It was a good night, nobody died.
Jeez, imagine that being your idea of a good night. And later that evening, Wesley throws a loud shindig full of topless women.
Nice. Nice.
Rowdy Herrington really tried to make this movie cater towards both female and male audiences, and you have to give him credit for that. Also, Patrick Swayze has a really nice ass. When Dalton comes back to work, he finds the scummy bartender has weaseled his way back into a job.
Mr. Tillman may own this bar, but the liquor he serves is supplied to him by Brad Wesley. Pat McGurn is in the employ of Mr. Wesley.
That's right.
He tries to start beef again, but Dalton does his duty. If you look closely, you can actually see that this guy's nose is bleeding before Dalton even hits him. Dalton doles out the ass kicking on all the rest of the mob while his team lends support, and we get a very good look at just how naturally Patrick Swayze knows how to kick ass. All the actors in this film did their own stunts and received training from Benny the Jet Urquidez. He personally found Swayze so good that he actually suggested Swayze become a competitive kickboxer. Dalton goes to the hospital where he meets Dr. Elizabeth Clay.
I'll give you a local.
No, thank you.
Do you enjoy pain?
Pain don't hurt.
Isn't that the very definition of pain? The scummy bartender turns out to be the nephew of Wesley, who isn't very happy with the situation.
You disgust me, O'Connor. You want to know why you disgust me?
No, why, boss?
Because you're a bleeder. You bleed too much. You are a messy bleeder. You're weak. You got no endurance for pain. You're gonna be fine. And you know why? Because I like you.
Well, you got a funny way of showing it.
Jesus.
What happened? Did you get robbed?
Every week.
So what does he take?
Who?
Brad Wesley.
10% to start. Form the Jasper Improvement Society. All the businesses in town belong to it.
Then we get a glimpse of Sam Elliott as Wade Garrett, Dalton's mentor.
Take it easy, Rambo. I know you want to save the world from the commies, but you're gonna have to do it from down here, man.
Sam Elliott is an Academy Award-nominated actor with a legacy for playing gruff, masculine men. He personally says that he gets recognized more for this role than any other role in his career. Dalton calls Garrett and asks him to come lend some assistance at the Double Deuce. And that night we get more trouble.
Right boot. Sorry, we're closed.
Well, then what are all these people doing here?
Drinking and having a good time.
We get another bar fight. Once the story sets in and everything is given proper exposition, Roadhouse is largely one badass fight scene after another. Those who consider it lowbrow might want more of a story, but those who can have a good time should hopefully enjoy the quantity and the quality of the fight scenes.
Roadhouse.
Dalton's car repeatedly gets trashed as a result of his work, sometimes in a symbolic fashion. Dalton goes out on a date with Dr. Clay, and a romantic connection between them gets struck up pretty quickly.
We've been looking all over for you.
Really? You didn't think to look at his residence first, the place he lives? You know, literally right across the lake from your boss? And if you didn't already think Wesley was an asshole, he also likes to beat his woman.
Will you shut that shit off? I can't listen to that crap. It's got no heart.
Like you?
You know, when I came to this town after Korea, there was nothing.
Hang on, Korea? Like after the Korean War and the Battle of Incheon? Is Roadhouse actually a sequel to Incheon in disguise? That would be hilarious. Wesley has a firm stranglehold on the town and sees Dalton as a threat.
Dalton. I have a cousin in Memphis. Tells me you killed a man down there. Tells me you said it was self-defense at the trial.
He offers Dalton a job.
How much would it take to get you to come work for me?
There's no amount of money.
Dalton's work begins to show progress, with the Double Deuce attracting larger crowds and more friendly patrons, and 80s legend Keith David has joined the cast.
Whiskey's running low. Finally get this place just the way I want it, and now we're running out of booze. Called every supplier I know. Why won't they deliver?
Wesley, Ernie, give me the phone. I'll take care of it.
Then Swayze goes back to the loft where he bangs Clay to an Otis Redding song, one of the songs from the actual Dirty Dancing soundtrack. In real life, Kelly Lynch is married to writer-producer Mitch Glazer, who is a frequent collaborator of Bill Murray, and every time Bill Murray catches the sex scene from this movie on TV, he calls Glazer to tease him about it.
Word is, you've been spending time with Elizabeth Clay.
So?
You know who had a thing for Elizabeth Clay? Brad Wesley.
Classic tee-ups.
When the alcohol delivery comes, Wesley's men are there to intercept it, but Dalton starts kicking ass again. This time we have Dalton going up against several men at once, completely solo. Eventually they get the upper hand until Wade Garrett arrives.
Damn, that hurts, doesn't it?
Sam Elliott shows off his own fighting skills, and his moves are more than up to par.
That girl never told you she was married. And when a man sticks a gun in your face, you got two choices. You can die or you can kill the motherfucker.
These moments are meant to enable the mysterious past of Dalton, but the theme is dealt with in such a half-assed way that's done out of obligation and not with any actual conviction to do anything with it. Later that night, tragedy strikes.
Red's place is on fire.
The auto parts store has gone up in flames, but luckily Red himself wasn't in it at the time. And everyone knows who started it.
With a fire like that, nothing they could do.
Wesley then gets his woman to get up on stage and start performing a striptease for everyone, just because why not? I mean, I have no complaints about it. And then in comes Jimmy, Wesley's favorite henchman. He starts a fight with Dalton's bouncers and proves to be a solid match for their combined efforts, while a few others start to escalate things. Jimmy even goes up against Wade Garrett.
All right, that's enough. This isn't working out, Dalton.
Tired of everything, Red decides to move out of town.
Can you prove you started the fire?
Who are you gonna prove it to? He's got the sheriff and the whole police force in his pocket, for Christ's sakes.
I can call a friend in Springfield who works with the FBI.
You gonna take the stand against him?
You scared him last night. Brad Wesley, he's not afraid of anything, right? Last night, that son of a bitch was afraid.
No, he wasn't.
Damn, Dalton, you seem kinda happy about that? And Wesley's domination of the town continues, this time by sending a monster truck through the local car dealership. You've got to be a big fan of meaningless destruction if you're hoping to enjoy a movie like Roadhouse, and this is a scene which exemplifies that theme perfectly. Then we get a few shots of Patrick Swayze going furiously at a punching bag, just to remind us that he's badass, and a man with an attractive physique. Clay comes by to encourage him to leave town, but Dalton refuses.
It's obvious nobody in this town can stand up to him.
But you can stop him.
Brad Wesley picked me, and when he did, he fucked up.
You think you're gonna save these people from Brad Wesley? Well, who's gonna save them from you?
That's a really pretentious line. Dalton isn't a direct danger to any of them. An explosion cuts this conversation short as Emmett, the farmer who owns Dalton's residence, gets caught in a suspicious house fire, but Dalton is able to save him. And the perpetrator is none other than Jimmy, which makes Dalton furious. And this evolves into the best scene in the entire film.
Prepare to die. You are such an asshole.
Great comeback. Dalton and Jimmy go head to head in the most aggressive fight scene from the film, one which shows off the full extent of their brilliant physical abilities. This scene was actually shot a total of 71 times over the course of 5 days. It exhausted the absolute hell out of them, but the sheer power of their efforts is remarkable. This is one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen from any 80s movie.
I used to fuck guys like you in prison.
Marshall Teague, the actor who portrays Jimmy, he invited his mother to the premiere of this movie. When he said that line, she jumped up and proudly shouted, "That's my boy." For such a lowbrow line, that is such a wholesome story to go with it. Dalton progressively manages to gain the upper hand until Jimmy pulls a gun out, leading to Dalton delivering one of the most iconic executions in cinematic history. This is the most iconic moment in Roadhouse. The Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart film Central Intelligence took influence from this film, and even I did when I made an action horror film back in 2016. I cannot say enough favourable things about Patrick Swayze's iconic throat rip from this movie. Dalton stands there, shocked as he confronts the realization that he's had to kill again.
Wesley! Fuck you!
Despite playing a badass action hero, Patrick Swayze really gets no good one-liners in this movie. He just says fuck you a lot.
Wade or Elizabeth?
What?
One of them dies.
Wesley?
Nick Minute.
I said one beer, senor.
And this pushes Dalton over the edge, who sends his Mercedes right into Wesley's yard with an over-the-top jumping car explosion. But of course he wasn't in it at the time.
Fight that prick.
Pumping a shotgun always adds power to your words. That's like the first rule of an 80s action movie. Dalton has infiltrated Wesley's residence, but manages to remain out of sight at first. But when he gets found, all hell breaks loose.
Tails again.
Cheese and crepes, son of a gun! There's even a moment of comedy as Wesley's heaviest henchman freaks out in a room full of stuffed animals.
You're made for each other.
Dalton finally faces off with Wesley, who shoots him in the shoulder. Wesley goes on to use a spear of all things as a weapon. You don't see many action movies where this is a weapon, so this is a nice touch. Dalton is eventually able to gain the upper hand, but ultimately finds himself unable to kill Wesley. I get that this is a movie cliche, but we literally just saw Dalton kill several men. Why is he going to stop when he's about to kill the head of all the bad guys? But it's alright, because Red comes in and shoots him, and so does Emmett. In fact, all the men who Wesley is pissed off come in to pump the motherfucker full of lead. And when the sheriff shows up, nobody says anything.
Who's gonna tell me what the hell happened here?
I didn't see nothing. You see anything, Pete?
No, I didn't see anything. You see anything, Red?
I didn't see nothing. Not a thing. You see anything, Tinker?
A polar bear fell on me.
That line, that's actually a really hilarious touch. And Roadhouse ends with a double deuce back in full swing and Dalton and Clay getting to enjoy their fairy tale romance. Is Roadhouse a good film? Roadhouse is a shameless guilty pleasure, nothing more, nothing less. There was never going to be substance in the film, but at the same time, it does feel like Roadhouse likes to pretend there is. The film has little to no character development, aside from Dalton getting more angry as the film goes on, and while the cheesy dialogue in the script is perfectly acceptable, Swayze has little to work with. During the scenes where Dalton is on the job, he has a sense of professionalism which works fine, but anything he says that is meant to give his character substance or characterization is pretty empty, and Swayze doesn't always rise above the material. Plus, the romantic scenes do drag on. Roadhouse would have flowed better if they downplayed the romantic subplot, but since Patrick Swayze was a lover boy at the time, it makes sense that they kept it in to appeal to the female crowd. In retrospect, it's just a normal trope for the story, so it's tolerable, but there really isn't much life given to this plot point because it exists purely out of obligation. Luckily enough, most of this material is condensed to the middle section of and that's probably the low point of the movie overall. But considering that the original cut of this film was meant to be 3 hours and 20 minutes long, this is actually a watered down version of what was probably a far more pretentious film. Also, while Roadhouse starts very campy and lighthearted, as the story goes on, things get a whole lot more serious. This does help to make the film more intense and darker, especially the action scenes which progressively grow more violent, but it means that the campy charm and upbeat energy wears thin. I liked the campy energy of the film's first half and I enjoyed the dark and gritty nature of its second half, but the film never really transitions smoothly between these themes. It just kind of goes from one to the other. And for a lot of viewers, I feel this can be jarring. Also, why would you cast Keith David in this film and just make him a cameo role? This guy is an 80s icon. He was in The Thing and Platoon, and the previous year he was literally in They Live, where he had one of the most iconic fight scenes of all time. How can you take the guy who had a 6-minute long fight with Rowdy Roddy Piper, then put him in a movie about bouncers and not give him a single fight scene? That's just a waste of the man's talents. But all this being said, Roadhouse is still a personal favorite B movie for me. Even though the story isn't anything original, I really like the fact that it takes a classic Western narrative formula and updates it to be a 1980s action film, replacing gunslinging cowboys with ass-kicking bouncers. Western movies and 80s action films are two genres of film which I really love, so the fact that this film combines them, yeah, I am definitely the intended audience for this movie. The story even adopts specific elements from classic Western films. It borrows from High Noon by having its protagonist go up against the villain without the support of anyone else in the town, and it ends with a Rio Bravo twist by having a bunch of gun-toting locals rock up to support Dalton's endeavor. Plus, many characters in the film are named after iconic figures from the Old West. Dalton is named after Emmett Dalton, Wade Garrett is named after Pat Garrett, and Dr. Elizabeth Clay is nicknamed Doc in reference to Doc Holliday, just to name a few. And Rowdy Herrington's work as director is perfectly solid. Even though the script has some issues, Rowdy Herrington makes his film a visual experience, making sure to capture the beautiful scenery of the film's setting with a lot of widescreen cinematography. And his personal touch is best noticed in the film's fight scenes, which are obviously the movie's highlight. There are 9 major fight scenes in Roadhouse, and Herrington personally made an effort to try and make each one unique. Given the film's versatile use of settings and weapons, his efforts are definitely notable. And the fight scenes have awesome choreography and a lot of exciting violence to boot. The soundtrack is also pretty kick-ass, giving the film a very 80s vibe and a lot of energy. And the cast do a solid job. Patrick Swayze's charisma may be hit and miss, but when it comes to delivering the goods in the fight scenes, the man is an exceptional talent. Sam Elliott does the same, although his charisma is a lot more consistent. Kelly Lynch is mostly present for eye candy and to fill in narrative obligations, but she does what she can, even if she isn't all that exciting. And Ben Gazzara delivers a very tight performance. He plays Brad Wesley as a man who takes sadistic pleasure in exercising his power over the town, and Gazzara clearly appears to be having fun in the role, which makes his sadism flow very organically. It's funny when you stop and think about the fact that Ben Gazzara actually gave a better performance in a Patrick Swayze action film than he did in a Laurence Olivier war film. This movie actually reminds us how he got a career in the first place, more than Inchon ever could have. Roadhouse gets 7 throat rips out of 10. It's burdened by a lack of character development, a tedious romantic subplot, and a jarring tonal shift, but when it comes to delivering the goods of action and campy hypermasculine charm, it serves as a glorious mark on Patrick Swayze's career. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If there are any movies you want to see me discuss on this show, please leave in the comment section below. If you want to see more episodes of this show, please hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, until next time, I've been your host, Jukebox Harry. Peace.
Roadhouse.